Ladies and gentlemen, that is a face.
And this thing made a left turn in the low crawl position and went right back into the tree line.
It was it was loud.
Hey Joe, they're here. I swear to God, I just saw one.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. This is Captain Joe along with Johnny Two Bears from the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. It is February 13th, day before Valentine's Day. But anyways, kind of exciting show just because Johnny and the team made a return trip, first outing back to the happy place. And those of you who've been following along, this is where Johnny, Scott DePorres, and myself had an encounter with what we call a juvenile Bigfoot, as well as we found some really, really interesting finds out there. A couple nest sites, we call them nest sites, and anyways, Johnny, good to see you.
You too, man. How's everything been going?
Good.
Been busy, huh? As always.
Yeah. Unfortunately, however, you know what?
It's a good thing you're not on my bowling team. I mean, I don't have a bowling team, but it's a good thing you're not on it.
I know.
You'd never be there.
So literally, you guys are at the happy place, which is, less than an hour from my house, and yet I was in North Carolina while you guys are out there trouncing around, but anyways, man, tell everyone, who all went out there with you, and what went down.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's one of the hardest parts of doing a group research project is getting everyone's off time lined up. I don't have normal off days like normal people. Mine come in the middle of the week. So like several months ago, I put in for, 3 days off to even get that weekend. So that's not your fault. But luckily enough, we got pretty much a full house. Happy Harris, obviously he met, and guess what, man? Happy spent the night out there.
That's pretty good. That's his first time.
Yeah, that's his first time spending the night out there, and I didn't think,
wow.
I mean, that's a big step for
what happened to
him, So that was really good, bit by bit, piece by piece. He's not only come to terms with what's going on and what happened to him, but really been a valuable asset when it comes to, just like he brought. So it was me, my son, Happy, Lloyd Urich, which everybody knows Lloyd, and Hank Rosser. And also one of Happy's buddies that he grew up with. His name's Brian Hatch. I think they've known each other since either, I don't know if it was elementary school, but at least middle school. And they have been buddies. Happy told him about everything that happened to him out there and everything we found and all that. And Brian, he knows Happy well enough to know that he's not lying to him, but he's also a skeptic. But he was also open-minded, which is, that's all you can ask from somebody.
That's true.
But I really enjoyed meeting him. He's a really cool guy, a lot of experience hunting, and does a lot of hiking, did the Appalachian Trail, a whole bunch of stuff. And we'll get to it in a minute, but he had an experience out there, we think. But I'll go over that. But we had now I already did a video. I released a video yesterday of everything from out there, right? All the video we took and everything we found. But
and your
I don't want to talk. And the audio. Well, I'll go ahead and start with that. Whenever me, Me and Hank got there around the same time, like 5 minutes apart. Me, Hank,
And
and my son.
your son.
Uh,
So your son, does he go by first bear, second bear, or cub?
a little bear.
I mean, is he first cub?
uh, no, his name's Jackson.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
mean
he had a.
that's neat that he was out there, and I
Oh
know
yeah.
watching some of your videos, um, especially around your AO, your home, he has been out, in the creek out there with you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he and
Yeah.
you've discussed having these conversations about Bigfoot with him,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure he was excited to be there and participate in this, right? So
Yeah. He. I wanted him. It was several years of activity around my own property,
mhm,
and that I didn't tell them exactly what was going on.
yeah,
And I didn't want to tell them, even after I had my initial sighting of the full body silhouette one. I still held off telling them exactly what was going on out here. But the day that I came home from when you, me, and
so, so
Scott had our two sightings, I
mhm,
pretty much got everybody together in the kitchen and said, "Hey, look, this is what's going on. It's
they
no
are real.
longer a. This isn't a game. This isn't a if. These things are real. 100%. I've seen them, and
Yep,
that's
yep.
what's been going on out here." And I explained it all to him, and he's been super, very interested in it. Um, so I wanted to take him out there with me, and that I just want him. I think it's important for young boys to hang out with grown men in the woods.
Yep,
See how
yep,
men interact and what they do and conversations. And he was,
yep.
he's only 12, but he was in the conversations and everything else. So
Good.
it was a
Good.
it was a good trip for him. But right away when we got there, now I've got the whiteboard behind me. Everybody knows I like my whiteboard. Um, like I explained in the video, this whole property has this massive pipeline that runs down the middle of it with a big creek. And we have found stuff all over the property, but we're cut. We used to, how we used to camp. We used to come in up here. There's a road up here at the top. We used to come in here and camp right here.
Yep.
Well, that is, we can't get to that anymore. They sold that part of that property to the,
Mm,
I think it's a farmer of some sort, dairy farm. I don't know who it is. Anyway, he sold that. So we have to come in down at the bottom side. Well, this is a deer stand right here. And we pull in and we get out, kind of waiting on Happy, kind of looking around where we're going to camp and everything.
yeah.
Well, already in this corner of the woods, we're hearing, animals alert, like birds and squirrels, and it was too far away from us for it to be us. And then Hank heard something moving around over there, and then I heard something moving around over there. And there was one point to where I had set up the thermals looking. I had one of the deer stand going this way,
Okay.
one going out this way, and one going this direction. But we're paying attention to over here, so I'm filming over here. At one point, I caught a glimpse of what I thought was something black, and I turned around and I couldn't find it. And I told Hank, I was like, "Man, now full disclosure, my eyes have gotten pretty bad over the past 2 years. I'm gonna have to go get glasses." So I was like, "Dude, Hank, is there anything over there black?" And he's like, "No, not now." But he thought he caught something black over there before.
Okay.
So now it's a little bit of everything going on. And we're like, all right, well, maybe they're here. So all we can do is film and pay attention. Well, we decided to walk down, my son and I walked down to the creek, and that creek is full. Like, that part of the creek that goes over the pipeline, that's like maybe 6, 7 feet deep, is how deep that creek is. Well, it
Mhm.
was about a foot from the surface, so it was filled up.
Wow.
So we're like, all right, we got to find a place to cross. So we found a dead coyote down here, coyote bones or a dog, one of the two. And we walked back up to the deer stand where Hank was. And he's like, hey, man, when you and your son got down to the creek, I heard a whistle. I'm like, all right, good to go. I had a audio recorder set up, and I had it set up right here in the tree, like right in, just like a foot inside the woodline. So I went through, and it's about a 30-minute long recording. I stopped it, went through it, and sure enough, there is a vocal in there. I didn't hear a whistle, but it's a vocal, and it's like a oh. It's pretty much all it is, but it's a definite vocal. Now we get home later on, and I go through it, and there's actually two vocals. There's one that happens when I'm here, and then one that happens when we get back here. And I 100% believe they are vocals. It sounds, I play the vocals we got on the very first night when we were out there. Remember the uh uh. Well, it kind of sounds like the same tone. And there was also, while I'm sitting there talking, I hear another break, and that was also picked up on the recorder. And they're really something super weird about. I don't know what's going on with these audios, and I explained that in the video and everything too. But there's something I left out in that whole recording while we're there. It's picking up a noise. It sounds like an old video camera. It's going click 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 click. For whatever reason, there's nothing there to be making that sound. But only, I recorded the whole time we were out there, and only in that one spot while those vocals were going on during that time, it's making that click, 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 click. I don't know what that is. And you also had the fact that Hank heard a whistle, but the auto recorder didn't pick up a whistle. It picked up an actual vocal. And we've had this kind of stuff happen over and over again, like the night of that very first night. There's two howls, obvious howls, and we kind of debated on whether they were canine or not. We didn't know. But then the after those howls, there's the Well, we didn't hear that in person, and they're super obvious on the recording. And there's been other times, actually, during that same night, there is a popping noise. There's a over and over again. Now, we didn't hear a popping noise the whole time we were out there. I've also had that happen on my own property where I record another vocal, and then there's a popping embedded in that vocal. So something, I don't know what it is. It's a little weird.
Do you think that ticking noise could have been like some rocks clacking?
No, it literally sounds like an old video recorder, like a film recorder,
Okay.
or like a film projector. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
And there's nothing around there that's making that noise, so it's like some kind of weird interference. I don't know what that's all about.
Okay.
But anyway, it's cool that we got the vocals. So we pretty much, I think they were right there. I think they were right there in that tree line. Within the first, I don't even know, I didn't time it, but like maybe within the first 30 to 45 minutes, we were already hearing stuff, and we already got that both vocals. So that was promising. We got pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But when everybody else got there, me and Hank and my son, we crossed that major creek. And, on the one side over here is where we had found all the bones before. A whole, several coyote, deer, and pig, the main three that are out there. But we found a high concentration of those bones right here in this corner, in this wet area near the creek over the past 2 years. Well, there weren't bones out there anymore. But when we got across to the other side of the pipeline, we went in probably about right in here, where there's a pine thicket right on the side of the pipeline. And you'll see in the videos, dude, there were bones everywhere. Just there was deer, and it was super close to the coyote just across the creek, pretty much. So tons of bones in that one area. Now, it's not abnormal at all to find bones all over this property because there is a ton of wildlife out there. But what
Yeah,
is weird,
and imagine the landowner does, quite a few trips out there hunting, right?
oh
So
yeah. There's people out there that coyote hunt, pig hunt, and everything else, but
yeah,
they're not shooting deer and pig and coyote and then stacking them all in that one spot.
yeah,
Usually when you take something with you or else you leave it, it's not going to all wind up in the same spot.
yep,
Plus it's very hard to get to right there. You got to cross that creek and everything.
yeah,
But but it's mirrored. It all used to be on this side. Now it's like mirror image. Now it's over here on the other side. And that's actually, where we were hearing the vocals from, where we recorded the vocals from.
okay,
So that's always it's pretty astounding how compact all the evidence and activity is. It's right there in this real small area. And we've been all around that property,
yeah.
but the mass majority of the evidence is all in one spot. And
Were
then
you
we
able,
found,
yeah,
huh?
were you able to cross the creek and go back to that area where we found the nests?
Yeah. That's what we did. We actually found the bones
Uh
on
huh.
the way back from walking that whole area because I wanted to show my son where the sightings happened.
Yeah.
Uh, and I also, we looked for new nests to see if there was any out there. We didn't find any, but so we walked that whole area. We even went back to where, we were starting the little gifting area thing. There was nothing new. Pretty much everything. We had left some whistles hanging off of trees. Um, None of that had been moved. Nothing had been left. But it's been since last summer since we've been out there. Since I've been out there.
Yeah.
So that's nothing weird. We didn't leave anything this time either. But we did. We found a hole with what looked like a digging stick. There's no way to prove that, but that's kind of what it looked like. Like something was using this like L-shaped stick to dig in this hole. But we found some other that Brian guy. He found actually what looks like two different tracks. One on the second day when we were over by the creek, there was a spot that looked like one stepped right on the bank, like right where the creek is. But unfortunately, it's in the water,
Uh,
so you can't really. There's no way to know 100%. But it was the interesting part about it was there was what looked like a print, and then there were several deer tracks right there also. So I don't know if
cool.
something was following the deer or whatever, but Brian continued on looking for other tracks. I don't believe he found any more. Um, but then he also found an area back in this field that they all hunted on. And he found what looked like sticks that were broke when something stepped down and then left a big track in that dirt back there. I wasn't back there to see it. He took pictures. I added those pictures to the video from everything we found. But that was pretty interesting. But the probably the craziest thing, um, visually that we found was the amount of things that look like structures now.
Mm,
Um, the and I've always talked about how I'm not super big into structures. I'm not super big into markers. There's a lot of people that think these things 100% make structures. Well, I just don't know anybody who's watched one being made by a Sasquatch. So it's speculation, but there's enough out there for me to pay attention. Well, in this one area, we've been all over this one side where we had the sightings and the beds, and there's nothing over there that looks like structures. But on the other side, I think one or no, two different times we had found things that look like markers or structures. They look like the asterisks where everything's crisscrossed together.
yep.
And one of those that had the the 10-point deer skull underneath it. That's the same day of the sighting. Well, in this area now, there's like, I think we found 3 or 4, and one of them, there's just stuff pulled all towards the middle of this one area. And it's obviously something's bedding right now, right there. It very well could be deer that's using that to bed down in. But out of all the things that I've seen that look like they could possibly be made, that was pretty impressive. I mean, it
Mm.
looks, some of the stuff that's weaved together and holding things together and everything. I mean, it's also odd to me that there's none on the other side. Like both sides of it, you got this pipeline here, and then you got a pine thicket on one side and a
Yep.
pine thicket on the other side, and
Yep.
both have wet areas in them. And this side, we've always found structures in, but on this side, we have not found one thing that looks like a structure.
Mm.
So, that was, it's pretty interesting, I have to say. I'm hoping to go back within the next maybe week or two. I'm going to take a day trip by myself. Um, I want to be able to use that new parabolic I got
Yeah.
at night, but I also want to take a lot more time looking and going through the structures and seeing if there is any patterns, if I can find something that says, yeah, 100%, I think that this is made, because there was so much there that, I mean, I could spend 2 hours looking through everything probably.
Yeah.
So that's what I think I'm going to do next time. And
Mm.
I look forward to doing that. But the probably the cherry on top. So we're hog hunting at night, and there's now again, this is all in the video that I already put up, but I'll go through it real quick. The the property owner told us, obviously he's given us permission to go out there, and he specifically said shoot as many hogs as you can. I wasn't big on the idea of hog hunting,
Yeah.
but the because we're doing research. But then I was like, you know what? If we shoot hogs and leave them, then if nothing else, maybe they'll enjoy having us come back. Because we're kind of feeding them.
Yeah.
So we all brought our guns and we all decided to go hog hunting. Well, you've seen this field before,
Yeah.
but it's a big field and it's got an island of trees over here. And we all went out Saturday night, and the guy Brian, he lined up here. I think Lloyd was here and Happy was here. Me and my son were behind them, and then we wound up going back to camp. But Brian, he's got a thermal rifle scope, and they all walked out there together. They all got in line. They dropped Brian off, and then Lloyd and Hank went to his left. And I believe right after Brian got settled, he saw something in his thermal that looked like a human. Basically the top half of a human, and it was across the field over here.
Mm.
Now, basically what happened is when they got done and they all came back, he kind of mentioned it, but it was late. We all went to bed, blah, blah, blah. We get up the next day, and he mentioned it again, and he was trying to work out with Hank and Lloyd exactly where they were at. Because what he thought happened was that, oh crap, Hank or Lloyd, they're not in the right spot. They're not. I either misunderstood them or somebody screwed up. He said he put the scope on them. He's looking through the thermal scope, got a really good look. He said there was, it's the full body, and he kept saying man. We're like, well, how do you know it's a man? He's like, because of the size of it. It's the size of a large man. And but he said there was no backpack, there was no headlamp, no hat, no guns, no nothing. And it's just standing in the woods. I don't know how far away that is. I'll have to measure that. I want to say it was, I don't know, maybe 200 yards, 150 yards, something like that. But he said that's what his initial thought was, hey, these guys are out of place. Now he's not a Sasquatch researcher, number one. Um, so he's not real concerned with recording everything. He said that, and I didn't want to be pointing my rifle at whoever this was.
Yeah.
So basically he was just super confused. Like how once he figured out that, wait a second, Hank and Lloyd, they were off to my left, and there's no way it could be them. And it definitely wasn't me. I was in the complete opposite direction. Um, but yeah, that's what he said. He saw a upright, full body man through the thermal and thought it was one of us. And the interesting thing about it is, about 150 yards behind where he saw that thing, that's where we had our sighting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's all woods back there. It goes to that creek, the bit,
Yeah.
the creek, which is not easily traversable. You know
Oh
that.
no, it
Yeah,
is once you try to get everything on, like there's some woods here and then there's a creek.
yeah,
Well, everything on this side of the creek, that's fine.
yeah,
But once you try to cross all these woods between
yeah.
the creek and that field, dude, it's a pain in the butt.
Well, even
You
the
and me
yeah.
have tried going there.
Well,
Me and Hank.
yeah, even the creek itself, is pretty wide, pretty deep.
Hmm.
Remember, you tried to cross it that first time we were out there and got
Yeah,
wet.
when I fell in.
So I mean, so there's no farmer that's going to park a half mile on the other side of the creek, cross the power line, come through all those woods,
No,
you know. Um,
that would be out of the entire property.
yeah,
That stretch of wood would
yeah,
be the worst spot to not only get to, but
yeah,
just an absolute pain in the ass.
yeah,
So we don't know exactly, we'll never know exactly what he
yeah,
saw, but
yeah,
he was confident that it was a man-sized upright,
yeah,
and to be honest with you, the first night, I kind of blew it off, like, because he didn't seem sure. And then Lloyd said, or yeah, I think it was Lloyd said something where, when he was looking, he saw a deer and he thought it kind of looked human, and then it stood up and he was like, okay, well, it's just a deer. Well, it wasn't like that. He was very, if nothing else, he was very sure that it was a man of some type over there based
well,
on what he could see on the thermal scope. So,
knowing what I know of that area and where that fuel is, the wood line, the creek, and that location where we saw the juvenile, you know, that little pocket right there seems to be.
mhm.
You remember that big bamboo grove? Remember?
all that right there next to the creek,
Yeah,
like you just said, that's a big bamboo grove. And if tactically, if I was going to pick an area to set up, I mean, dude, it's perfect. If you set up in this area right here,
yeah,
you have you can see everything coming from just about
yep,
all this direction. You've got an open field,
yep.
then you've got bamboo behind you, and then you've got a creek that's extremely hard to cross. I mean, this area right here would be perfect to hang out in if you're, trying to stay away from people or whatever.
Yeah, especially
But
this time, like this time of year, bamboo is still thriving. It's growing. It doesn't drop leaves like everything else out there, right?
right,
And um, you know, those areas of like heavy, dense bamboo grows also. It's a good thermal warmth area just because it again, I mean, it retains heat in those areas. You're not
no,
open and exposed. So I mean, yeah, man, just for this guy Brian to see something like that, right? And it concerned him enough that he didn't want to point a rifle at it because
right,
you know you know out of sheer obviously safety, but yet. you know, you and I know what that terrain is back there. That dude,
Yeah.
it's not some nosy farmer from a mile down the road. It's like, man, what are these guys doing out there?
Right. No,
Yeah.
no, no. If it was,
I'm gonna go check on them. I'm gonna go on
dude, if
someone
that was
else's property. Yeah,
there would be no reason. I mean, even if you wanted to hunt from there,
yeah,
uh, I mean, you still got quite a walk from the. I
yeah,
mean, it's just a really bad spot to try to
yeah.
get to. It's
Plus,
not impossible, you know.
plus it's someone else's property, right?
Right.
Most bubbas, if they're gonna drive the roads and hunt and shoot, they're gonna come down that dirt road, right? Where they were posted up
Right.
originally. Yeah. You're not gonna go through that hard stuff back there, man. And
No, that
that's
would be
where,
one of the
yeah,
worst. And plus, you got even if you're going to hunt this field,
yeah,
you still got all this over here. If you
yeah,
wanted to trespass or do whatever, I mean, that
yeah,
side's closest to the road, you know.
yeah.
So,
That's
if
that's
this was another property, if this was just somewhere else randomly, you
mhm,
know, I'd be a little more skeptical
yeah,
that maybe he made a mistake
yeah,
in identifying something. But I
yeah.
mean, we know what's out there. We know it's crazy to me that within the first 30 to 45 minutes they were already on us. You know, uh, 100%, I believe, and we were getting the noises of them creeping around and everything. Now we didn't hear the vocals ourselves; they were just
Mhm,
recorded.
yeah,
But to me, those are definite vocals. There's no other animal that makes these noises.
yeah.
Um,
Now you guys spent the night, right?
yeah, we spent Friday night and Saturday night out there.
Anything happen, while you guys are
No,
sleeping or
no, nothing. I still have hours upon hours upon hours of thermal video to go through because the
yeah.
whole time we were out there, I had thermals out recording.
Mhm.
So who knows? I had one the last night we were there. I had one pointed directly at our camp, all the vehicles. I think probably there was too many of us, because there was only me and Hank and then my son at the beginning when they were actually, it seems like they got close.
Mhm.
But then you get, five adult men out there and a kid. Uh, I imagine it probably, decreases your chance of getting something to happen. Not to
Yeah,
say it wouldn't, because
that
people report
yeah,
big groups all the time have activity, but
yeah, and if you're all walking around carrying rifles, they know what those are.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
But
Yeah,
they don't, they still don't seem concerned enough about because like every time Happy's out there, he's lugging around a shotgun 90% of the time.
yeah,
Uh, I'm armed. I was armed the day that we had that sighting. The two sightings. They didn't care.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just and it's not always necessarily about just the Sasquatch research too. We're all friends. So
yep,
getting together like that, that's to me is just as important as the research itself. And you can't really control what will happen and what won't happen or what,
yeah,
and you got another guy like Brian, you bring him out there and say, hey, there's all these hogs. And he's a hunter. He wants to shoot hogs. I'm not going to be like, no, dude, there's a bunch of hogs out here, but we're not. We're doing Sasquatch research, you know?
yeah,
So, but I still think it worked out really good. And,
good deal. Yeah, I'm curious. We've had here in this part of Georgia, we've had 2 solid days of a lot of rain. I know some creeks and all that around my neighborhood here and around town, pretty high. Yesterday
yeah,
I was driving home and, there's always, 2 creeks where they come together and man, it was filled up. And knowing that area out there and how those creeks run, I said, man, I imagine, they got a good washing. Maybe it was enough to
Hmm.
soften up the ground, erase some tracks. That way, when you return out there, maybe you might catch you find something fresh, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it is. And Hank brought that up too. He was like, "Dude, uh, they live here, and we're not finding many tracks." I'm like, yeah, I mean it's been like that the whole time. We have found what we consider tracks, but it's just evidence of movement. You're not talking about nice uh, castable tracks. That I think they do that intentionally. We know that they were out there. We know that they lived there, and it's just a matter of luck, I guess. That and you can't search the entire property.
hmm
Every square foot. So uh, we found a bunch of things that look like tracks or evidence of movement from a large bipedal creature, but they're just not castable. They're not pretty tracks.
yeah,
So, but hopefully we'll get lucky one day because I would love to get a good track from out there. It's probably possible, but
yeah, yeah.
I've
So
always been since our sighting, I've been scared that things would change because they know that we know now, you know, and it's
yeah,
super obvious.
yeah,
Well,
you're
obviously it has not changed. They are
yeah,
still there. So that was a relief to me,
yeah,
just realizing that and then seeing continual evidence of them living there. It's like they changed their kitchen around. They quit using one side of the creek, and now they're using the other. So
yeah.
good
Well,
stuff, man.
there was some timber work that went on out there last year.
Yeah.
Some clearing, and then obviously, some bulldozer work to clear some shooting lanes.
Hmm.
That's kind of changed things up, but still, that area where you and I saw that juvenile, and he was, and his back was up against that creek, and we know that other side is kind of like that no man's land because it's hard to get to. It's thick. Most of the
Hmm.
mature hardwood trees were back there, and I
Right.
suspect because you know what, it's hard to get equipment back there. You know,
Hmm.
um, that makes a good little pocket, but hell, getting back there is just hard. I mean,
Right.
you got to just tell yourself, man, I'm gonna get wet, and I'm gonna,
Yeah.
and it's gonna suck crawling through there. You know, um, it
Well, the
makes me
last
think about
time,
that time you and I were there. Remember, we heard something like
oh yeah,
something hit the ground and
it ran. We were coming from this direction, and
yeah, like through that
something
bamboo.
ran.
Yeah,
It ran like maybe 15 yards.
yeah,
It was obvious it was hitting the bamboo, and then
oh yeah,
just dead stop,
yeah,
and then nothing. You know,
yeah.
I mean, if it was a hog or something, you would think that
You'd hear it busting out. Yep.
you would hear it bust out, or eventually after. I mean, it took me a couple minutes, but I threw logs, try to throw logs over the creek to make like a you know a little bridge, and then that broke, and I fell in,
Yeah.
and I got out, and I got to the other side, and then I went into that bamboo thicket, and nothing happened. There was no movement. You would think that, and I was recording the whole time.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they're at, man. I think that's a really out of that entire property. I mean, there's even that property. It's around. I'm just going to say around 300 acres, but that's not the only property out there. There
No.
is thousands of acres of farmland and woods out there that they could go to if they wanted to, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason they decided they like that spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, that's amazing.